Hello and welcome back to Stop and Go F1 for this, our preview for the Hungarian Grand Prix. Welcome along, everybody. Come on in, settle down, make yourself comfortable. We've got loads to go through on this video. Not only have we got the news, but of course we have the statistical slip road. We will have special helmet street, upgrade corner. We've got free practice freeway, and we have our predictions, our two predictions that, of course, we never, ever, ever get wrong. Before we get into all that, though, remember to like and subscribe. We are very, very close to 15,000 subscribers. So please subscribe if you are watching. And if you've got friends who are into Formula 1, tell them, come along over here and subscribe to this channel because it's the best one. And we can hopefully get to 15,000 subscribers before the end of the weekend. Also, huge shout out to the members: Dakota, The Joyous Jane, Ron Myers, Simmons Strudel, Michael Johnson, Mr. Eurovision 1986, Philip Doganzik, No Edam on Sandwiches, and Sarah Jowett. Couple other things to get through just before we get into everything. Firstly, the Belgian Grand Prix of last weekend made me ill. I'm on the other side of it now, but if my voice sounds a little bit weird, it's just because I'm coming off the back of an illness. Secondly, I had a comment on the driver ratings video saying that my mic levels were too low. I've changed it now to make them a bit higher. I'm a bit worried that they are now too high, so if you could let me know if the mic levels are okay, hopefully everything will be fine. But let's look forward now to the news. And the biggest news of the week is that Frederick Vasseur has signed a new contract with Ferrari. Rumoured to be 3 years long, this contract. Now, initially, when I first saw this news, I was quite alarmed because I just woke up, opened up my Instagram, and there was just a picture of Frederick Vasseur saying "statement on Vasseur," and I thought, oh my god, they fired him, Horner's coming in, the rumours are true, I can't believe it. But no, Fred is safe, and he is staying in red for the next 3 years. Personally, I think a great decision. A huge fan of Frederick Vasseur. I think he's very good at his job. I think he is the right man to deliver Ferrari back to the top of the championship, and hopefully he can do that. What is quite funny, really, is his first season at Ferrari as team principal was the first season that I was making videos on Formula 1. So if you go back to some of my first ever videos, the 8th video I did on this channel was about Ferrari's big livery launch at the start of that season, and Frederick Vasseur's big interview in that and all that kind of stuff. And there's a moment in that launch that has stuck with me from then to now, which in my head has always been the thing that signalled to me that he was the right guy. Because Binotto had been the Ferrari team principal before, and they had that 2022 season where at the start of it, it looked like they were in for the championship. Leclerc was leading the championship, things were going well, and then it was just mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake. And every time Ferrari messed up, Binotto would be interviewed and he would just go, "We are Ferrari, we don't make mistakes." Despite the fact we've been watching them make mistakes week after week after week. And, it just never seemed to go anywhere. And then when Vasseur came in his first interview, he said something along the lines of, "We're Ferrari, but we cannot rely on our history to push us forward. We need to put the work in. We need to kind of iron out the mistakes." And as soon as he said that, I was like, yep, this is the guy. This is the guy to lead Ferrari forward, and I think he has done a decent job, to be fair. I think it's been tough, but I think he's done a good job. And, on the back of that, well, first what I should say is if I looked back at that video today just to kind of see how it was, my 8th ever video on this channel, and I hadn't discovered that lighting is important yet. For some reason, there's a chair next to me with just one shoe on it, and, there's no comments on that video, so if you want to be the first ever comment on that video from 2 years ago, go check it out. You can be the first comment if that wants to be your claim to fame. But yeah, the message, the thing that stuck with me for all these years was that I believe in Frederick Vasseur, and I believe he can do it. Of course, him signing this contract has sparked a bit of a debate of, can Ferrari get back on top? This is always a question that comes up. But the bigger thing has been, in 3 years, can Ferrari come back on top? And for me, the answer has to be yes. Because we are heading into next year what basically is the biggest change in terms of regulations in ages, because it's not just aero regulation change, it's also engine. So, the rumours would say that the best engine for 26 right now is the Mercedes engine. But even if that is good, if another team finds an aero loophole and has their Brawn double diffuser moment, then that will shoot them up the grid. So there's so many different areas into next year's regulations where you can excel, and any team could be at the front of the grid, and why can't that be Ferrari? And then just on top of that, in 3 years, anything can happen. And I was thinking this as well, talking about, because everyone's saying, well, it's 3 years, what can you do in 3 years? So I thought about this, right? Last year, McLaren won their first title of this century. They won the Constructors' Championship of 2024. So I thought, let's go back 3 years and see where they were 3 years before they won their first title since 1999. So here is, everybody, the 2022 season, 3 years before McLaren are world champions. Let's scroll down. Constructors' Championship right here. First, Red Bull. Second, Ferrari. Third, Mercedes. Fourth, Alpine. Fifth, McLaren. 3 years later, McLaren are Constructors' Champions. Here, they're being beaten by Alpine. At this point in time, across the last 10 seasons, McLaren had won one race. 3 years later, they are champions. If we look more into the stats here, wins, 0, of course, because they only won one race in the last 10 seasons, and that was Ricciardo in Monza in 2021. Pole positions, none. Haas had more pole positions than McLaren. Fastest laps, 2. Podiums, 1. They had one podium all year. 3 years later, they are the Constructors' Champions. 4 years later, they are now the dominant force inside Formula One. And that's without a massive regulation change. What McLaren have done is just got the right people in the right place. The biggest one, of course, being Rob Marshall, moving from Red Bull to McLaren. That seems to be the one that everyone sticks on, as that's the guy who changed everything. But that's how much it can change in the space of 3 years. Everyone looks at the big regulation changes for the big moments, because, of course, the engine regulation changes made Mercedes a top-running team. And then the new aero regulations changed that over to Red Bull. But within those aero regulations that Red Bull did so well and out of the gates, we have changed from Red Bull being this top unbeatable team here on 759 points to today, Max Verstappen was not in the top 10 for FP2. That's how much it can change within 3 years. So when you ask, can Ferrari win a world title within the next 3 years, the answer has to be absolutely 100% yes. I think they can. Will they? We'll have to wait and see. That's the roll of the dice with F1, as always. But it's totally possible. I 100% believe in Frederic Vasseur to deliver that. Who's currently fifth? Who is currently fifth in the Constructors' Championship? Let's have a look. Fifth place in the Constructors is currently Williams. There you go. That's all I need to say. McLaren were in the same point that Williams are now. 3 years later, they won a title. Anything can happen in the world of Formula One, and it usually does. Moving across to more contract news, Max Verstappen has confirmed that he is staying with Red Bull next year, and it is now heavily rumoured that George Russell's contract extension will be revealed soon. That story can finally be put to bed for at least 7 months? 8 months? 9 months at a push, I reckon. But yeah, Verstappen will be in Red Bull next year. Russell will be in Mercedes next year. I imagine Antonelli will also be in Mercedes next year. The outcome that everyone deep down really knew was going to happen has happened. I look forward to discussing this again next year. Moving across now to something I found out today that I thought was absolutely fascinating. Now, of course, F1 have been rubbing shoulders to shoulder with Hollywood over the last year or so with F1 the movie, And, that has got the bug. There's already rumours of a sequel to F1, the movie, being put in the works. But that is not going to be the next big Formula One film, because there has already been a jump on that one. It is going to be a Formula One biopic. Of course, we saw the Senna documentary TV show thing. That was a biopic, of course. But this is a new one on a driver who you might not expect to have biopic. I imagine some of you watching this will not know who this man is. But here is the driver who is having the next big Formula One biopic. It is Narain Karthikeyan. Now, if you're not too familiar with Narain Karthikeyan, I don't blame you, because he didn't do tremendously well, but he is India's first ever Formula One driver. He drove for Jordan in 2005, which was the last ever year of Jordan. He then disappeared from the Formula One world until 2011, when he returned with Hispania Racing Team for the 2011 and 2012 seasons. Hispania Racing Team were dreadful. He then disappeared once again. In his career, he had 1 points finish, which was a 4th place. Now, you may be thinking, my goodness, a 4th place in cars that weren't very good? That must have been a hell of a drive. Certainly worth a film. Then I will reveal to you, it was the USA 2005 race, where only 8 drivers started it because of the whole tyre gate thing, and he was just the 4th of the 8 drivers who finished, and then it's not as impressive. But this is the next big F1 biopic, everybody. The director has put a quote here, and the first line of this quote is fantastic. Narain Karthikeyan's journey isn't about racing. You're goddamn right. He also went on to say, it's about belief in yourself, your country, and a dream no one else can see. That's what drew me to this story. So keep an eye out, everybody, for Narain Karthikeyan, the movie, coming to a cinema near you soon. Let's look ahead to this weekend, though, and the big thing to think about this weekend is it might rain again. So we'll have possibly the 3rd wet race in a row. Let's go back to our good old friend Google Weather. And we can see here, it looks like it's going to rain throughout the morning, especially in the morning. Maybe throughout the day, we shall wait and see. Nowhere near as heavy as it was last time out in Spa, but should be good. Saturday, probably fine. Friday, that day's already done. Who cares? But yeah, it looks like from about 1:15 through nearly all the way through the night, through Sunday, rain could be expected, which could be a lot of fun for this weekend. So I did a video after Spa saying about how ridiculous it was that, the FIA were overly cautious, and we turned that into a short that went out on YouTube Shorts and TikTok and Instagram and all that good stuff. And in that video, I was basically saying that they were overly cautious and they could have done it, and we could have had a worldie of a race, but the FIA are too much of a coward to do it. Was basically what I said, shortened down. And a lot of people kind of heard my arguments and went, "Oh no, I disagree. We have to do safety." And I thought, "Oh yeah, I understand that." And a lot of people agreed and said, "Yeah, I see what you're saying. Maybe I wouldn't have started as early as you said." But I had a range of responses: people agreeing, people slightly agreeing, people disagreeing, and then there was a very strange pocket of people who, when I said, "I think we should have raced in the rain," their immediate response was, "You want them to die!" I'm like, oh, wow, okay. This is a very interesting thing here. I even had one person see my clip on TikTok, and their comment was, "Yeah, it's been a while since we had a dead driver. Is that what you want?" So no, I don't remember mentioning I wanted to see any of them die. I just think that it should be possible for Formula One drivers to race in the rain, especially if Formula 2 drivers can do it. So what I'm going to say here, just to make sure I don't offend anyone, is I hope that this weekend is actually incredibly dry. Really, really, really dry. The driest it's ever been. Oh, but wait. Oh, no. Okay, I just remember. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, everyone. I've just remembered. Remember the Dutch practice session? A couple of years ago, it was dry, and Daniel Ricciardo crashed and broke his wrist. So when I'm saying I want it to be dry, I'm implying that I want everyone to break their wrist. I'm so sorry. I don't want it to be dry. I'm saying that I want everyone to die. Oh no. Maybe they should just not race at all, and we can all play chess or something. A chess tournament to decide the championship. Oh, but what if someone accidentally chokes on a chess piece? Oh no! What have we done? What have we become? Why would we do this? Oh, it's so hard to live in this world, isn't it? Well, I guess nothing can be done. Let's hope for a torrential downpour. Moving forward, though. Fernando Alonso missed FP1 this morning. It was his birthday this week as well. He turned 44 years old. And as an old man, he has got a bad back. And that was the reason he missed FP1. Felipe Drugovich filling in for him this weekend, just for FP1. Fernando was back in for FP2. And I was questioning, I wonder if he's maybe using FP2 to kind of see how he feels and move from there. And I think after seeing Aston's results in FP2, it doesn't matter how bad his back is hurting, he will not be getting out of that car for the rest of the weekend. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But let's go now to the statistical slip road. We're going to have a look back at Spa for some stats from there. Then, of course, look ahead to this weekend and look at all the stats as well. Stats, aren't they great? Firstly, Oscar Piastri took his 8th win of his career, putting him alongside Charles Leclerc, Daniel Ricciardo, Denny Hulme, Jackie Ickx and Lando Norris on the all-time leaderboard for wins. Strangely though, with that win, he shared the podium with Norris and Leclerc, and the flag was waved by Jackie Ickx. So first, second, third, and the man waving the flag all had the exact same amount of wins. Very strange. Meanwhile, for McLaren, it was their 199th win. They are looking to become only the second F1 team ever to reach 200 wins, the first, of course, being Ferrari, and they could very well do that this weekend with the pace that they're showing so far. Lando Norris got pole last time out, which was his 13th pole position of all time, which means that he has equalled Jackie Ickx, which means currently both Jackie Ickx and Lando Norris both have 13 pole positions and 8 wins. An interesting one as well, with his podium, Charles Leclerc has now surpassed the points total of Michael Schumacher. Now, of course, points were different back in the day. So, does that stat really matter? I'll follow that up with a second question. Does any stats matter? The answer, no. More stats now. It is the 39th Hungarian Grand Prix of all time. All the Hungarian races have happened at the Hungaroring, and the race itself will take place on the 50th anniversary of the Williams team first ever podium at the 1975 German Grand Prix, where Jacques Lafitte finished in second place. That result was Williams' only points finish that year. Now, in terms of the stats for this track, they are completely dominated by Lewis Hamilton. This is one of his best tracks in his career. He has the most wins here with 8, which is joint second all-time for most wins at one circuit. Most poles with 9, which is the record for the most poles at one circuit. And his latest pole was also here a couple of years ago. Most podiums with 12, which is joint second all-time for most podiums at one circuit. Most points with 268, and the most laps led with 487, which is the record for the most laps led at one circuit. The only record he does not hold is for fastest laps, which is shared by Schumacher and Kimi Raikkonen with 4 each. I should clarify, Michael Schumacher holds that record, not Ralph or Mick. As for the other drivers on the grid who have won here, Max Verstappen has won here, as has Fernando Alonso, of course Esteban Ocon back in 2021, and Oscar Piastri took his first ever win here this time last year. 41% of the wins have come from pole position, 61.5% of wins have come from the front row, but the race has been won from as low as 14th place by Jenson Button in 2006, where he got his first ever race victory. There's that iconic photo of him with the biggest eyes in the world as he celebrates his first ever race win. This track, though, has had a lot of first-time race winners. Of course, Jenson Button, as we just said, Patrick Tambay, Rubens Barrichello, Damon Hill, Fernando Alonso, Heikki Kovalainen, Esteban Ocon, and of course, Oscar Piastri last year. All of them taking their first ever victory at this track. Speaking of Fernando Alonso, though, he celebrated his 44th birthday this week. He will become... Oh my God, my throat is gone. He will become the first F1 driver to compete in a race over the age of 44 since Graham Hill in 1975. It's been 50 years since someone over the age of 44 competed in a Formula One race. Fernando Alonso will break that this weekend. Also this weekend, Max Verstappen will have his 200th race for the Red Bull team. He'll become only the second driver ever to reach 200 races with one constructor. Lewis Hamilton was the first ever to reach 200 races with one constructor. With him and, of course, Mercedes, he had 246 races with the Mercedes brand by the end of his time there. As for other drivers on the grid, Lance Stroll will equal the amount of races as of Romain Grosjean this weekend, as he reached his 179 races. Charles Leclerc equals the races of both Mika Hakkinen and Ayrton Senna on 161. Oscar Piastri will equal the races of Jochen Rindt on 60, and Stake F1 team Kick Sauber will have the same amount of races as Racing Point on 38. Right, it's time now for Special Helmet Street. It feels like it's been forever since we did a Special Helmet Street, but here we go. It's not a big one, because we only got one. And here it is. It's Charles Leclerc's special helmet for this weekend. And what he's done here is he's asked his mates to design a helmet for him for this race weekend. And his friends have done exactly what I would do if a friend of mine asked me to design a helmet for them. It's kind of basic on the side, and it's got a picture of him and his mates on the front, on the top. Look at that. They're having a great time, eating ice cream. What a load of lads. Wonderful stuff. That Special Helmet Street, job done. Also, very short upgrade corner, because only 3 teams have brought upgrades this weekend, which is not surprising, really. Last race before the summer break. Red Bull, front wing, front corner. Aston Martin, new front wing. Racing Bulls, front corner, and cooling loops. That's it. Job done. Across now to Free Practice Freeway. And it's been an interesting one. Let's bring up the screen here so we can take a look at what's happened. It has been entirely dominated by McLaren. So FP1, Lando leads from Piastri. They're 2 tenths ahead of Charles Leclerc in third. Ferrari looking pretty decent here. I would say easily the second fastest team so far. Another team that has looked good, though, is the Racing Bulls. Hadjar was there in 4th. Lawson fell down eventually to 14th. The Williams team as well, in their interviews before the race weekend, they sounded pretty downtrodden on their on what they could achieve this weekend, saying that they were fearing this weekend alongside the same like how they feared going into Barcelona, which they did very badly at. But not on the soft tyres. On the soft tyres, we have Albon in 11th, Sainz in 15th. But on the harder tyres, especially in FP1, I thought Williams actually had some decent pace and were definitely ones to keep an eye on. Paul Aaron was filling in for Hulkenberg here with the young driver test. Still a young driver movement that I don't really understand, because Aaron is an Alpine junior, I'm pretty sure, unless he has moved. But there you go, he had a breakdown anyway, so not a mental one, the car broke down. Yeah, Bortletter was that as well. Alpine looked dreadful. Also looking dreadful was Red Bull. Yuki Tsunoda in 17th place. Max Verstappen in 9th. It would get worse into FP2. But of course, if the last year and a half has taught us anything, It's that Red Bull can look dreadful in FP1 and FP2, then just put it on pole or something ridiculous. I do not see them putting it on pole this weekend, but do not write off Red Bull or Max Verstappen just yet. Going into FP2, I feel, is a lot more interesting. Now, Lando did lead again from Oscar Piastri. Much bigger gap there. The first gap was 0.019 between the teammates. Now Lando extending that by nearly 0.3 of a second on Oscar Piastri there. Charles Leclerc again in third, but here's what I find interesting. Fourth, Lance Stroll. Fifth, Fernando Alonso. Now, I said last week that they'd brought upgrades to Spa and they were kind of worried about them because they didn't have many practice. They only had the one practice session to kind of work it out and all this kind of stuff, and it just didn't go their way. Maybe here they've had a bit more time to work on it, and it looks like maybe it's coming good. Now, I have been fooled before by Aston Martin, who have looked good in practice sessions, then just come to the track on Saturday and Sunday and been absolutely dreadful. But this is a good sign. And look, Lance Stroll, he's right there. When the race starts on Sunday and the two McLarens take each other out and Charles Leclerc has like a pit stop that lasts 40 seconds and Lance Stroll wins, what a story that's going to be for everyone. It'll be fantastic stuff. Madness. Lewis Hamilton was in 6th, George Russell in 7th, Isaac Hadjar in the top 10 there again, Yuki Tsunoda ahead of Max Verstappen, who is down in 14th. Like I said, really bad day for Verstappen and Red Bull, really not showing too much pace at all, but it could be worse. They could be Alpine, who are right at the back. So it's an interesting one going into the rest of the weekend, but it's now time for us to make our predictions, and my first prediction is total and utter McLaren domination. Front row lockout, 1-2 on the podium, fastest lap, leading every lap. I think they're untouchable this weekend. And I wouldn't, what I'm thinking about at the minute is if we go back to the Hungarian Grand Prix of last year, that's when we first saw this kind of Norris and Verstappen, Norris and Piastri thing kind of come to a head, with McLaren making the mistake on calling Lando in first and then begging him to move back, and it takes quite a while. Sorry. So it took quite a while to him to make the move there and all the kind of drama that came with that. And I think that might have been in Lando's head for a year. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's coming into this weekend being like, no, I'm going to show you what should have happened last year. And I really think that he is quick this weekend. So I think that could be interesting. I was also thinking earlier, we still really haven't seen them have that battle. Every championship has that battle. Like the duel in the desert for Rosberg and Hamilton type thing, where they just back and two every single lap. In terms of wheel-to-wheel stuff, this year, we nearly had it in Australia, but we didn't. In Imola, they had a little bit of a fight, but Lando was on far fresher tyres. It didn't really happen. The closest we got was Canada, when Lando just drove directly into the back of Piastri's car. We had a little bit in Spa, but really it was a lap one thing, and then Piastri kind of ran away. I'd love to see him having a fight this weekend. Just like a proper fight, because with Hungary, there's only one real overtaking opportunity. That's into turn 1. So I'd love to see it where you just have dive into turn 1, new race leader, the other one follows behind for the entire lap, dive into turn 1, new race leader, the other, it's over and over. That's what I want to see. It's just mad that we are now over halfway through the season and we haven't seen the top 2 in the championship have a proper fight. It's just madness for how close this championship has been between the two of them. But there you go. That's my prediction anyway. McLaren domination for the weekend. Second one is I'm going to believe the hype on the Aston Martin train. I'm going to say this is their best points finish of the year. So far, they've scored 8 points in Melbourne and 8 points in Silverstone. That is their best results so far this year. I'm saying they're going to beat that this weekend. 9 points minimum. So there you go. That is the preview done and dusted, everybody. We'll have all the coverage for the rest of the weekend. F2, F3 is on as well. So tomorrow we'll be here for qualifying. Sunday, F3, F2, F1. Monday, driver ratings. All of that to come. So make sure you subscribe if you're not already. It's going to be a boatload of fun. But obviously not a boat because it's raining, because I don't want anyone to get hurt. I think we're done. Goodbye now.